Hello and welcome to another special interview on the Think Tank's Wellcast. This is Karan Dev, and while most of the guests I've spoken with so far on the Think Tank's Wellcast have been from the political community, it is my pleasure to shift focus to the world of markets and business. I'm really excited to spark this conversation with Nikhil Kamath, who is the founder of Zerodha, which is India's largest trading brokerage, and True Beacon, which is a Category 3 alternative investment fund. He is also India's youngest billionaire, but I doubt that his source of pride comes from there. He's been described as a visionary disruptor who has fundamentally changed the way Indians trade on the stock market, having come up with a phenomenal platform. And for someone like myself, who's curious but doesn't have esoteric wisdom about the stock market, if you will, Nikhil's talks and interviews have served as a rich source of information and guidance. On a personal note, this is also exciting for me because we're both from the city of Bangalore, which is regarded as the Silicon Valley of India. Nikhil, I'm sure you've got one eye on the markets, but it's great to have you on Swell, and I'm looking forward to listening to your thoughts on the questions which follow. Nikhil, on a personal note, firstly, how have you been doing mentally over the last year? And what are some of the things which you've learned about yourself during the pandemic which perhaps you weren't aware of earlier? And how has it also been on the business side and the work front?
Yeah, so the pandemic taught me the importance of having many facets to your life. It's great to be professionally motivated and dedicated, but without having a great family structure, a good community that supports you, and being healthy and all the other facets, life does not truly feel complete. I think that's one big portion of my life which the pandemic reiterated how important that is.
I'm glad to hear that the last year went well for you, and I'm aware that you follow Stoic philosophy as well, which is also an area I've been interested in. Nikhil, I've heard you speak about the education system elsewhere, but it'll be great if you could go into it in a bit of detail. As someone who has employed heuristic techniques and self-learning from a young age, what do you make of the education system? And in the same vein, I know you're a fan of psychology, so do you also subscribe to the psychologist Carl Jung's ideas about the influence of the shadow self and the psychological toll that it takes due to a lack of intellectual fulfillment at the schooling stage? And, as I'm sure you're aware, these conflicts tend to surface in adulthood and might interfere with decision making, especially in a business context. So can you maybe point to instances of this in everyday decisions at work?
There's plenty that one can critique the education system by, especially in India. Our system of pedagogy is very theoretical in nature. We spend a lot of time teaching our kids how to earn money, but do very little in terms of helping them manage that money once they have a job and they're earning a wage. Stoicism, my version of it is, whenever you run a business or you're an entrepreneur, you have 10 different things going on at the same time. Half of them work out, the other half do not. To be able not to fixate upon the things which are not working out in your life, and to be able to put them in a compartment and focus on things that you can actually make a difference to, is my version of Stoicism. So I think I'm able to do that to a certain degree. When things are not working out, I'm able to put them in a compartment and not think of it. So that philosophy does help a lot when it comes to business and running teams which often have large members.
Thank you for echoing that sentiment about education. Nikhil, as I mentioned in the introduction, given that a lot of my guests on Swell have been from the political sphere, I was wondering how you locate yourself ideologically. And I don't mean to think within the binaries of left wing or right wing. I was pleasantly surprised to see that you tweeted the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. And coincidentally, I'm reading the same book at the moment. So in that context, what are some of the issues in India today which concern you and which you really think that the political class needs to take the lead on? So for example, should India follow a Milton Friedman type of free market economic model?
I'm a big proponent of any kind of a free market model. The lesser government intervention historically has been better for the economy. Plenty needs to be changed in terms of governance. It is scary that we are in many ways moving in a direction which is less democratic than we have traditionally known our country to be, and not following on the lines of our constitution in many ways. Younger people need to participate. I think that's the big game changer here. Why the politicians we have today are governing our country when we have so many smart younger people who can come and replace them and do a much better job, that is a pity. So we need to encourage younger people to get involved locally and worry less about the government at the center, but try and see what can be done at a local level. That would be very important and have long-term benefits for the country. I don't like the fact that people's opinion and people's view, it could be the lower strata of the economy, the middle class or the upper class, none of this the government seems very receptive to at the current juncture. They're not receptive to suggestions, criticism, all of that, and I don't think that works. Countries as large as ours cannot be run in a very dogmatic manner. They have to be working on a model where you build consensus and start from the bottom up. So plenty that needs to change. These are some of the things that I can think of right now.
That was very well put, Nikhil. I think a lot of people agree with a lot of the ideas which you just mentioned. And democracy is at the end of the day about building a consensus and taking people along. Nikhil, the ideas of Nazim Nicholas Taleb, especially the Black Swan and his theory of the skin in the game, have gained currency over the last year. But in terms of COVID being a Black Swan event on the markets, how would you describe the past year?
Taleb has commented on this himself. He says that COVID is not a black swan because the signs were prevalent and we had tiny viruses over the last decade or two, which kind of should have prepped us up for what is happening today. Taleb is very interesting. He's one of the authors I like a lot. He actually ran a hedge fund and he actively participated in the markets by betting on worst and best case scenarios. So he would essentially buy far out of the money calls or puts and hope a black swan event does occur. In the duration, the time period that his fund was active, no such thing happened. Even during the pandemic, outside of early March last year or March and April last year, there hasn't been drastic activity in the market. We've been fairly optimistic, notwithstanding all the trouble we have seen on the ground. So very interesting guy, interesting concepts. Whatever he says will do much better in a very volatile world and do badly in a trending or a stable world. So interesting to see what he does next and what he comes up with.
On a related note, Nikhil, it's a fact that human perception is riddled with biases. And while it has been propounded that the basis of the efficient market hypothesis is underpinned by investor rationality, what are some of the biases which you've observed in the Indian stock markets historically and over the course of the pandemic?
There aren't very many biases right now, Karan. People are choosing to ignore the pain which is very evident in front of our eyes to see on the ground with unemployment, crime rates going up, job losses across the board, and many industries suffering. Investors and retail alike are choosing to look into the future. They are looking at what might happen post-pandemic. I think this is a bit far-fetched because even when things do open up, with the vaccination rates we are at right now, we could extrapolate with a fair degree of certainty that there will be a third wave in India, and we probably will be back where we are right now, and there will be a third wave and a fourth wave and so forth. So I would in fact in many ways wonder why the prevalent optimism today exists, and advise caution to all retail participants and stock market investors. Every asset class today seems to be in a bubble. Everything from cryptocurrencies to real estate to equity markets, even gold to a certain extent. I'm fairly bearish on commercial real estate as well. We ran many offices with staff coming into work every day, and we are seeing this trend of de-urbanization where people are moving back to tier 2, tier 3 towns and having a better quality of life whilst remaining more productive at work. So plenty that has to change. People seem to have forgotten historical bear markets, and there is too much optimism today, which probably is not a good thing.
Shifting focus, Nikhil, you've often said that a big part of your vision is to increase accountability and cut down the long chain of unnecessary middlemen in accessing the markets. And this seems to be a problem across different spheres in India. In this context, can you speak to how this idea inspired Zerodha as well as True Beacon?
In Zerodha, we cut down the cost of broking. The incumbent peers a decade ago charged anywhere in between 0.25% to 0.75% in brokering fees. We eliminated that with a flat fee of 20 rupees per transaction immaterial of the quantity or volume they buy. That changed the landscape significantly a decade ago. In True Beacon, we've removed the distributor, the middleman, the statutory AMC fee of 2%. In our endeavor to be client aligned, we charge a flat carry or a performance-based profit sharing of 10% at the end of the financial year. So a client only pays a fee if he makes money, and he does not pay anything if he does not. Both of these have added to increasing transparency in the respective sectors. Outside of the cost structure, communication and being transparent with what exactly is happening in the business and on the ground aids in increasing transparently, incrementally, and we endeavor to do that consistently as well.
Just to conclude, I'd like to club a couple of questions together. I know True Beacon has launched in the GIFT City Special Economic Zone in Gujarat. So what would you say to global investors looking to India? Are you optimistic about the prospects for the next year? And what are some of the key sectors which you're bullish on? And finally, Nikhil, and I know you touched upon this in one of the earlier questions, but what is your biggest worry and hope for the Indian economy and society more broadly?
GIFT City is a great pathway or a bridge for foreign investors or Indian residents outside, people who are not Indian residents but Indian origin. A good way for them to come into India without going through the traditional hops of going through a private bank or a feeder country like Mauritius or Singapore or Luxembourg. It eliminates all of those inefficiencies by having those middlemen, so you come in directly into the country. The government has gone a long way in alleviating many of the taxation issues that existed historically. They don't ask for a PAN card here anymore. There's no tax on derivatives. All of this makes GIFT City very favorable as a bridge to invest into public equity in India. India might see turmoil from a one-year perspective, but from a longer 5, 10, 15-year perspective, there are still plenty of opportunities out there. As far as True Beacon is concerned, we are a hedge fund where our portfolio is constantly hedged, and we are less trying to play what trend will exist in the next 1 year, but more trying to play the arbitrage between stronger companies doing better and weaker companies doing badly. So there is an opportunity to invest into that vehicle and use the GIFT City route to come into the Indian public equity space in a very efficient manner. In terms of big worries, I worry about what is happening with the government at the center. Today, the 26th of May, we hear social media outlets, might be banned or curtailed to a certain extent here in the country. I don't think these things are moving in the right direction. It is worrying and should be worrying to everybody who's living here in India. I personally believe we need to move to a freer form of democracy, where free speech and public emotion should be allowed to be expressed in any manner that the voice, the person behind, wants to sees fit in his own way. I'm not a big fan of these restrictions which are coming in. Outside of that, plenty has to change with governance, with education, with cutting red tape, which still does exist in very many industries in India.
Well, Nikhil, I want to thank you for this wonderful conversation. I've had so much fun connecting with you on Swell, and we've covered a lot of ground. And I sincerely hope that this will be the first of many such interactions that we will have with you. You've given us a lot of insights, and I'm looking forward to hosting you back here on the Think Tank Swellcast very soon. Thank you so much again.
Thank you guys for having me. It was wonderful being here. Thank you, Karan.